Hi. Hey guys, what's up? My name is Dom. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I typically make bookish content, movie content, and anything else in between because I like to do whatever I want on this channel, and today is going to be bookish content. Today I am doing the well-acclaimed book tag, which is the mid-year book freakout tag. Everyone always does this. I don't know who the original creators are, but if I find them, I'll link them down below. This is just like a mid-year check-in. It's fun. I love watching these videos. I've been doing them ever since I started BookTube, and we're just gonna go ahead and jump right in. So question number 1 is the best book I read so far this year, and that will be Troublemaker by Leah Remini. So Leah Remini was a co-star on the show King of Queens, which is a comedy show that was out years ago. I think I was still in early elementary school. She plays Kevin James's wife, and at the time of filming and ever since she was 13 years old, she was part of the Church of Scientology. She had recently left the church, as in maybe not even 10 years ago, and wrote a whole book about it. Not only is it about Scientology, but it's also about the juicy gossip of Hollywood, so that was fun to read. I have a weird obsession with cults. I love learning about cults, so I loved reading this book. I've been wanting to read this book for years, and I just liked how the story was, I don't want to say story, it's nonfiction, but I liked how the book was written. It had a lot of juicy gossip about Tom Cruise, who's he's not the leader of Scientology, obviously, but because of his big name, he's treated like he's a leader, and that was actually one of Leah's problems. When listening to the audiobook and just listening to what she had to say, it was very obvious to me why she left. I follow some subreddits about cults and just what they describe. It's usually the people who are the most hardcore believers that leave the cult because they notice the leaders are doing the opposite of what they tell you to do, which was Leah's thing. She firmly believed her money was going to the greater good. That's why she would donate millions of dollars. She genuinely thought the Church of Scientology was helping these people, but then when she found out the truth, she was gutted and was like, this is not the church for me. That's why she peaced out. I do highly recommend listening to this book on audiobook because Leah does narrate it and she's hilarious. Some of these things might not have been funny, but because it was the way she was saying it made me chuckle. And yeah, the best book I read. Question number 2 is the best sequel I read so far. I have not read many sequels this year, so I'm just going to go with Tokyo Ghoul Re by Sui Ishida as a whole. But Tokyo Ghoul Re is the sequel series to Tokyo Ghoul, so I thought it was fitting for this question. If you don't know what Tokyo Ghoul is about, it takes place in a world where ghouls live in Japan. Ghouls eat humans, but they themselves look like humans unless they go into ghoul form, which is just their eyes changing and their kagune coming out. And one day our man Kaneki goes on a date. It doesn't go well. Suddenly he is half ghoul, half human. And there's a lot of mental anguish going on because he can understand both sides, because there's a program called the CCG who are trying to eradicate the ghouls. The ghouls just want to live. It's not their fault they eat humans. And Kaneki sees both sides because he is literally half and half. And the whole story is just his mental anguish about it, him trying to help each species coexist. He goes through a massive character development throughout this series. I only have 2 volumes of the manga left, and I'm kind of putting off reading them because I don't want the series to end. And I'm going to watch the anime, which I've heard some things about from manga readers, but I'm still excited to get to it. I will say I do like the original series better than Tokyo Ghoul Re. I'm still loving Tokyo Ghoul Re. It's just that there's some problems with it. In the beginning was a little rough just because in the original series I was more interested in the ghouls than I was CCG, but in Tokyo Ghoul Re it is more CCG focused than it is the ghouls. And I've noticed in Tokyo Ghoul Re the author has some problems with pacing. Not terrible by any means, but some things are rushed while others aren't. They're great, but you can always tell when he's hurting to start the next arc, because that's when some things are a little rushed. My ship is canon. It's just I wasn't expecting all this stuff to happen within 1 volume, and I was like, holy cow, I'm having whiplash. So stuff like that. But otherwise, great series, highly recommend it. It's my first ever manga that I'm reading too. So number 3 is a new release you haven't read yet but want to, and I want to finally get to The Desolations of Devil's Acre by, what's his name, Ransom Riggs. This is the 6th and supposedly final book of the Miss Peregrine series. Am I excited for this? Based on my opinion of the 5th book, no. I enjoyed the first 4 books. The 4th being my favorite. I thought the 4th was phenomenal, and I did not like the 5th at all. But I couldn't just not continue the series when I only had 1 book left. I do want to see how he wraps things up. So I bought it. I got it. I was reading the summary, and it's one of those tropes I really just can't stand, because the book ended with things happening. The 5th book ended with a lot of things happening. According to the synopsis of this book, the 6th book begins with them, and suddenly they were somewhere else and they don't know how they got there. And I hate that. I always think that's a cheap way out of your problems when it comes to writing a book, but whatever. I'm gonna withhold as much judgment as I can. I was a little judgy there, but I'm gonna withhold as much as I can now, and just read it. I don't know when, but I want to. Number 4 is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Usually I don't follow releases just because I like reading. There's just so many books I haven't read yet, so I can't keep up. But Demon Slayer's box set is coming out in October, and I really want to buy that because I'm learning with Tokyo Ghoul, it's actually, you save more money in the long run if you buy box sets rather than individual volumes. And supposedly season 2 of the anime is also coming out in October, but that's just a wild rumor, nothing for sure yet, but it's going to be a Demon Slayer month for sure. Question number 5 is the biggest disappointment. That's going to have to be The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. So this is about a man who lives in another planet. Huge conversation about gender, sexuality, and all that, and he's trying to get this planet to join some pact with the other planets. And I DNF'd this book at 50%. I couldn't take it anymore. It's sad because the conversations around gender and whatnot are very important conversations to have, especially at the time this book came out. But I am just slowly learning sci-fi is not my thing. I didn't care. I was bored out of my mind. And so when I DNF'd it, I did look up the end on Wikipedia, and in the long run, I am very glad I stopped reading, because, like, at one point, I put the book down, and I wasn't picking it up for 2 months, and I was, like, dreading picking it up, and that's when I was like, okay, just let it go. You're done. Number 6 is the biggest surprise, and that is Number the Stars by Lois Lowry. This takes place in Nazi-occupied Denmark, and it's about a girl who is trying to save her Jewish friend. I reread this year. The reason I'm saying this is the biggest surprise is because when I was younger, I wasn't a huge fan, but I did thoroughly enjoy this more as an adult. Like, it's still not the best thing I've ever read, but I just like it better now than I did when I was a kid. So number 7 is favorite new author, favorite new to you, and I have no one for this, so we're just gonna move on. Number 8 is newest fictional crush, and he's not new. I didn't get a new crush this year, so I'm just gonna have my answer from last year, and it's just gonna be Kaneki from Tokyo Ghoul. I love this man with all my heart, and it's great because usually with anime and manga, like, the main characters are teenagers, but Kaneki is not. He started the series at 18 as an adult, and he's ending it, or I don't want to say, I don't know where he's at right now, where I am in the manga. Where he's at in the manga right now as a volume, what volume am I on? As a volume 14 of Tokyo Ghoul Re, he is like his late 20s, mid to late 20s, and it's like, oh my god, finally, a character my age. And I love him with all my heart. He's just so selfless, and he wants to help everyone, and we love a man like that. Number 9 is newest favorite character, and again, I don't really have one. This one I kind of had to reach for. I will go with Psycho from Tokyo Ghoul Re. She's not in the original series. She was introduced in the new one, and she's hilarious. She's actually kind of relatable. She just likes to sit on her ass all day and read manga, watch TV, play video games, and eat. And I was like, girl, same. Same. Number 10 is a book that made you cry, and I'm going to go with Ghetto Side by Jill Leovy, I think her name is. This is a piece of nonfiction. Jill explores the problem with, again, the problem with police, criminal justice system, and how they treat the average citizen. This one focuses on black people. She talks about how when a black person and a white person are involved in the same type of crime, like when a white person was murdered versus a black person, the criminal justice system tends to care more for the white person, and they often push off the cases with black people to the side. There was a huge problem how a lot of these were cold cases. None of them were being solved. Not only were they impossible to solve, but there was a lot of detectives in this program who just didn't want to solve them. And then she talked about how some witnesses feel afraid because I know the crime she focuses on specifically was a black boy who was killed by a gang member. So she talked about how, like, sometimes witnesses are afraid to come up because they don't want said gang to kill them as well. She gave both sides. She talked about the detective that was helping to solve this case. She obviously talked about the kid who was murdered. She gave the kid's father's backstory. We learned about the witnesses. We learned about their backstory. She goes in depth. Then also some of the other cases she would talk about were also kids, specifically black kids, who died due to gang violence and, you know, police not caring. It was just some of the crimes she would talk about and just how young some of these kids were. It did make me tear up. I listened to this on audiobook. Again, I would listen to this on my walk to work, and I would catch myself tearing up at, you know, at the stoplight. So yeah, hands down, this book made me cry more than other books. Number 11 is a book that made you happy, and I'm going to go with The Martian by Andy Weir. This book is about a man who gets stranded on the planet Mars, and he is trying to come home. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars, but that's because oftentimes our main character, Mark, would go into, like, great detail about science to the point it was just going right over my head and I was skimming over it, and that was kind of taking away the enjoyment for me. But Mark Watney is actually hilarious, and I mentioned this in my wrap up, but his hilarity balances out all the despair that's around him. Because I've noticed with books, the unhappier the character, the happier the story around him is, like things go well for said character. Whereas in this book, everything that could go wrong did go wrong, but it was balanced out by how happy-go-lucky and sarcastic Mark was. And I found myself laughing out loud a few times, and rarely do books make me literally laugh out loud. So if you could do that, Andy Weir, you might as well be a comedian. Question number 12 is the most beautiful book you bought this year, and that will be a manga. Am I holding this upside down? Yes, I am. Uzumaki by Junji Ito, my bad. So the anime for this was recently announced. I saw the trailer, freaked me out, went to Barnes & Noble, and just had to buy this. I am so intrigued. I've never read a horror. I mean, again, I've never read a lot of manga. Tokyo Ghoul is my first. But I never considered horror being a genre in manga, and I'm excited because usually horror books don't scare me. But I think if I had visuals like that you get with manga, I will be horrified. Because again, the trailer itself for the anime kind of freaked me out. And also, Uzumaki is about spirals, and I've been reading comments saying I didn't know spirals could be so scary, so I'm very intrigued. And I just like the cover because I guess from a glance it's just some random patterns, but you could actually see the people spirals. It was just all the negative space was used well. The splash of red is what catches your eye. Even the spine, it has that screaming person. It looks really cool, and I'm very excited to get to this. I won't read it until Halloween season, but I'm excited. And the last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? There are a lot, so I just kind of grabbed a few just to throw out there. But my big book of the year, which is Under the Dome by Stephen King, I've already started. I'm 80 pages in. There's 1,070. It's going well so far, but that's a lot. All my rereads of the year, I don't have my freshman year one picked out yet. I don't have sophomore year picked out. I do have junior year, so that'll be 1984 by George Orwell, and then senior year is Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison. I'm going to be reading Hill House during Halloween season, Carrie during Halloween season. I have some books here that I really want to read. I want to react to the Phantom of the Opera over the Halloween season, so I bought that book, and I have to read that in September. Same thing with Alfred Hitchcock's Rebecca, so I bought it. Gonna read it in September. Then we have The Only Good Indians, which I'm going to be reading in the Halloween season. The Tokyo Ghoul light novels, I just need one more, but I got these. And everything else is just up in the air. I don't want to force a TBR for the rest of the year, obviously, because if I don't follow it, I'll feel bad about myself. So that was a mid-year book freakout tag. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I always enjoy making these ones. And if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. And then without further ado, I'm going to peace out, and I'll see you guys later. Ciao a tutti.